Today on Travel Award Search, we're going to take a look for flights from Houston to Nice, France in business class. We're going on a cruise that goes from Monte Carlo on October 7th. The closest major airport is in Nice, France, so that's why we're looking for these particular flights. We have some flexibility on our arrival and wouldn't mind spending an extra few days in Nice or Monte Carlo. Clem says you may want to jump around in the video. So here's the process we used and where you can find each step. We started by searching PointsYeah.com for the flights from Houston to Nice. We then took those results and went to the individual airline websites to confirm availability or see if we could find anything else. We went to American, United, and Flying Blue. We tracked our results carefully along the way and then evaluated them. Bit of a spoiler, we didn't find very good options, so then we considered other European arrival cities, and we went through a little bit of a process to see what those might be. And then we did the search again. We did not show the details of that search or of going to the airline websites again, but jumped to evaluating those results. So here you can see the markers where each step is if you'd like to jump to those individual steps. Hope you enjoy it. We're going to start this search at PointsYeah. It's PointsYeah.com. You can create an account there for free. It does have some limitations. Of course, you can pay to get more features, but we're in a free account. Log in. In this instance, be sure and hit business class. We always search for one passenger first so we can see what's available. And then we're also going to do the multi-date search. We've got it filled in already here. We're going to look for flights departing between October 2nd and October 5th. Although this won't be the end point, this is a good place to start and kind of get an overview of what might be available. And it does take a few minutes to run. So these are all the results for these 4 days. You can see here it defaults to sorting from low to high on points. This first flight is just 19 hours, so that's not too bad. 57,500 points, but big fees, $785. Pretty typical with British Airways. The other thing to notice is you've got a change in airport here, going from Heathrow to London City Airport. Something I would never do on an international trip. So let's see what else we have and what's acceptable. So here's British Airways, 13 hours, one stop in Heathrow, 85,000 points, but again, $748, so pretty high dollar fee. Let's take a look at the details. And an hour and 45 minutes in Heathrow should be adequate, but I wouldn't do much less than that. And as always, I fill things out in my tracking sheet, so I'm going to make note of these results. Let's close that one back up and go on from here. So here's one for 88,000 points and $26, certainly a good rate. On TAP and United. Now it does say mixed cabin. Let's take a look at that. It does have 2 stops, something I'd prefer not to do. So from Houston to Miami in economy, that's okay. An hour in Miami, a little bit tight. And then TAP in business to Lisbon, and then Lisbon to Nice, also in business. So something to consider. I would mark this one down, although personally I'm not very anxious to make 2 stops. Here's another one on TAP with the 2 stops with longer layovers. You can see in the longer total time. And as we go down, more 2-stop flights to consider. And then we start getting into over 100,000 points. Those would be the key ones to consider that we've seen here. And we need to look at the dates too. Those TAP flights are on the 4th. And the British Airways flight is on the 5th. So those are the options we got out of PointsYeah, and we should mark those down. Next, we're going to go to the American Airlines website. Now, this only makes sense if you have American Airlines miles, which I happen to have. You don't need to log in on American, but here again, we'll search for one-way redeeming miles from Houston to Nice on the 4th, since that's the date that should be the 5th. Let's see if we get those results on the American website. You can also get there right from the PointsYeah screen, but I tend to do a separate search. Now you might get excited when you see that 30,000, but that is actually for economy. We see the 85,000 and the $748 for first, and so we should note that is first class, not just business class, but there is only one seat there. So we can get flights for the 57,000, but again, that has the change of airport, and then it jumps right up to 260. Now, the other thing we're going to do is take a look at the calendar up here. Look at business first. So I'm going to look at the first in case I want to spend more time in the area, although I'm not sure I want to do that. So this flight actually does have one stop in Heathrow, but a total duration of 30 hours. I find that unacceptable, especially with $750 in fees, and then it jumps up. So we will also mark there's only one seat available on that one flight. Now let's move to the United website and take a look at the specifics on those flights that came up. It's better if you log into an account if you have status with United, as you may get some better results. So we've done that, as well as filling in the criteria here, and we're going to look at October 4th, that date that came up in PointsYeah, and see what we get. So let's be sure and sort on business class. And here we do have that 2-stop flight. Doesn't list any limitations on the number of tickets. Same details with economy to Miami and business to Lisbon. And then business again from Lisbon to Nice. So that's a potential if we're willing to take those 2 stops. The second flight, or second set of flights, also came up in PointsYeah, as well as the next one, but much longer time period there with 22 hours. And then it again jumps to 245. But while we're in United, we'll take a look up here and see if there's anything else. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the rest of these days and see if anything else comes up. Usually these ones with a slightly different copay in them may have a different set of flights. So I'm going to check this one on the 5th. 2 stops. Goes through Toronto. I think that's what YYZ is. And Zurich. Yes, Toronto. On United and Economy. And that is a 3-hour and 16-minute flight, so a little long there. And then 8 hours to Zurich. And then Zurich to Nice in business again. So that's also a potential. 2-hour, 23-minute layover in Toronto. 45 minutes in Zurich. That might be pretty tight, so I'd be a little leery of that one. And again, for 88,000 miles. The other thing I'm going to check on United is what's the best I can do with only one stop, especially since that one stop American flight isn't really available. Ooh, 245,000 miles. That is a bit much. And let's also try the 5th. 175,000 miles with a 5-hour layover in Newark. And I'm sure the next one is longer. Oh, change of airports in New York. No, thank you. Another one with change of airports, and then jumps to the 245,000 miles. So the best we can do there, I will make note of this one, but it's not exactly very attractive. Now let's go to the third of what I consider the big three, and that is the Air France KLM Flying Blue Alliance. None of these flights came up on PointsYeah, but let's check them ourselves and make sure. We filled in the information here, but one trick with Flying Blue is to leave the departure date blank, so then we can get a monthly calendar view. So let's see what we have in our date range. Nothing very good. Looks like the lowest that's shown is 173,000 miles. Nothing here, but it was worth taking a look. I'm not too excited about the results to date, either having to make 2 stops or having to spend 175,000 miles and even have a 5-hour layover. So I'm going to continue to search. There are very low-cost flights available within Europe, so we don't have to go directly to Nice. So I could do a 2-city trip and have some time somewhere else ahead of the cruise. But when I do that, I want to be sure I can just take one flight directly from that spot to Nice. So my next stop is actually to go to Wikipedia and the site on the Nice airport. If you go down the page, it shows you which airlines operate and what their destinations are. So you can look through here for other potential target cities in Europe. So for instance, I might be interested in a stopover in Dublin. There's of course London or Paris. Could go to Athens. Could go to Vienna, Brussels, and you can go down the list and see what places might interest you. So I'm going to go through here and pick a few of these places and do some searches around those next. So I did quite a bit of searching, checking some of the results that I got from PointsYeah and expanding on them in a few places. I tracked my results with my typical spreadsheet, and I always emphasize to do that. Sometimes I'm watching TV and start playing with searches, and if you don't track them, you find you're repeating some of the same searches. So it's really important to keep track of them. I print out my spreadsheet and do it by hand. I just find it easier for me. So this is my handwritten sheet. You can see I've searched a lot of sites and made some notes. Some things that I found on PointsYeah were available. Some, like that American Airlines flight, only had 1 ticket, so I eliminated that. And then I also looked at potential repositioning. For example, the United flights that go through Miami. Could I do better by repositioning to Miami? Unfortunately not. It was the same price. The same with going through Newark, so I did check that. And you can see I did an awful lot of searches. Now, even though I've got that information together, what I do afterwards is put it in a spreadsheet. Maybe you have the patience to put it in the spreadsheet along the way, but I just don't. It's important to put it in the spreadsheet to clearly see the results, especially because some of these flights have very high dollar amounts for taxes and fees. I convert everything to a mileage basis so it's easier to compare. You can do that on whatever basis you think. I went ahead and converted the dollars, assuming it's a value of 1.5 cents per mile. I usually get a little bit more than that. This gives me a good basis for comparison, and it somewhat penalizes the dollar amounts by giving them a lower value. So when I do that, you can see I've also sorted this sheet by the miles. If you have something more important to you, the time, the number of stops, etc., you can obviously sort by whatever criteria that you see fit. But in this case, I've sorted by the miles. I've highlighted in green the flights to Nice, my real target destination. And then I highlighted in yellow a particularly long layover in Newark. I did not highlight the extremely long layover in Dulles because I have family there, and the only reason I would consider that is having a quick visit with family. In general, stopping somewhere doesn't save me a lot. So if you look at those first two, I can save about 16,000 miles. It would seem to save me a stop, but I'm still going to have to get from Lisbon to Nice. So it really doesn't. So the only reason those might be better is if I really want to go to Lisbon. But I've been there recently, so it's not that compelling for me. The most compelling is the direct flight to Manchester on Singapore Airlines. The downside to that is there is a cancellation fee of $50 if I spend 87,000 miles or $75 if I spend the 81,000 miles, should I find something different. So if I book that, I'll be fairly dedicated to that flight and that routine. It is available on several days, so that's another advantage. My other alternatives would be to book one of the flights to Nice, either with the 2 stops on United or the 1 stop and high fees on American, because those are fully refundable. I'd still want to book something that if I didn't find something else, I'd feel comfortable living with, and then continue to search for something better. If you see something you like, definitely jump on it. I'm going to think about this for a while and also check on the return flights. We're taking a cruise, so it ends in Rome. I'll take a look at coming back from there or other areas in the region and probably make my decision after that. So look for part 2 on this flight search. This is Travel Award Search. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, travel wisely, travel well. Thank you.